You're on live stream. Oh, sorry. You got a card?
Yeah, I could do. No. It's on the
You are Kauhi of Kalawa.
Okay. So I did this. I went here. I followed the link. And then it took me to hang out. See? Took me to hang out.
And then get up.
Mommy, can I have money, please, to buy chocolates? Or are they gonna have snacks?
Hang out.
Did I post the wrong one?
But then I cannot see this. It just told me I'm the only one here. Should I try and exit and then come
Should I
back
try them
in?
again? Yeah.
Yeah. Close hangout.
Oh, see if I need another link. Oh, here it is.
Close hangout.
Oh, sorry.
Is it working?
I think I posted the wrong address. Okay, go ahead. From Kaimi's email, I will send you another link.
Okay. And then I will try that.
I thought there was gonna be a play. Fountain.
What email address is that? Okay. Yeah, forward that thing to Kale. Yeah.
I don't know where to pay you. But this is 10 links.
Oh,
Auntie Tasha.
oh, okay.
She did 10 out of the 30.
Just put the football. Take them out of the thing first. Thank you, Ashley. You got it? Is it off or is it on?
You want to cover that when you're working with it?
Oh, yeah.
Only Christian will get there. I want to show you some people taking. So you don't freak out.
Oh, what, my phone is showing? Oh, my back is showing? Oh, yeah, nobody's on it yet.
Right, that's what I mean. Not right now, we just have to edit it later. So if we just cover it up when we're working over here, then it won't.
Nobody's on it now.
Oh, yeah, just
Anybody on it? No, just want to see ya. You're not gonna ever
So-
be able to delete it though? Like that. No, but I thought I could edit it and
yeah, at the end.
okay.
But right now, anybody who comes on can see. Or maybe it's just me because I'm on. Like everybody after who logs on can only see what they
From the time
for the
they log
time
on.
they log on.
Well, let's hope to.
But you don't have to. I just
No. I was just thinking that, oh, yeah, this is on, so I was see if you want to edit it. Tuesday.
So I'm just going to buy random gums at a meeting. Like, can I also Berlino?
yes.
What is it? Smoke break.
And I sent the link to. I forwarded the email to. Okay. Hi, baby.
And you know what?
Alan,
Why don't we just go this way?
Alan over there.
What you see now?
Aloha mai Kapu. Dewi no mai i eaumoku akau, i Kapu akau, i ke ia ko. Mahalo nui i ka hele ana mai i ke ia ko no ka ho'omanaho ana i ke au puni o Hawaii. Ka mea I ho'okahuri ia ho'okari paneli I ho'okalua kumalua makahiki aku nei. So aloha to all of us, e kapoe aloha Āina, aloha. Mahalo to everybody for coming tonight to help us to remember, commemorate, learn about, as we mark the 122nd anniversary of the overthrow of the Hawaiian Kingdom. We have some good stuff lined up for tonight. Our first panel will be talking about what we titled our event tonight, which is Ka Āina, Yeah, Ea meaning life, breath, sovereignty, Gu. And of course, Aina being land. After that first panel, we'll have reenactment of the Queen's Women, which portrays an actual meeting of the Hui Ho post-overthrow, where our kupuna were organizing against the annexation to America. And then we will finally have two last speakers, Walter Ritte and Kaleikoa Ka. So at this time, we are going to offer a little hule up to our kupuna, and I'll ask Kaleikoa to come and hold.
Aloha Kapu. Eke aku aloha mai ko iki ko. Aloha mai ko mako heba mai ko mako hauia mai ko mako ku. Ke ko mako wa heba mai ko mako ho iki mai ya wo Bali mai ko mai mako ki ku te ko. Ene ko lo ku wa ho mako le pa lo hala. Ola lo ku ni ani ka ola ye ke ku pela ka wa ha me ka wa pa ki ko iki. Ke da ko ma. Okay, but let me first by saying, so if you're looking for the restrooms, the restrooms are in the back, right outside the door. Especially students, if you're looking for extra credit, make sure you sign in with Kiai, right in front on the left. So Kiai when you get there. And in the back, please go see Jocelyn and the gang back there. Sign up with the Q8 petition that you actually may have, or you want to visually see and touch the petitions, a copy of them anyway. All back here. Let's see Brother Kale and Maka say beat the Kiai over there with the Kanoa later on. And then to the far back, my right, your left, Kale is back there also with some refreshments if you need to see them later on. And we have Ruby had a stool for $5 from Hawaii students. Right, okay. The boss over here. First of all, I'd like to mahalo everybody for coming and sharing. We've been putting on this event every year for the past several years anyway. And we're very happy and mahalo to the various supporters who helped to bring some of our guests in from the other islands and for those who come from all over Maui to share this event. Just to kind of quickly look at our schedule, also you'll notice at 6:15 we have our play, and it's a audience participation play, so we hope everyone's hoops and hollers and yells and get involved in the actual play we have. It's another highlight every year. So we're going to get started. First of all, I'd like to call up from the west side of Maui, all the way from Aloha Valley on the other side. One of our great leaders of our Hawaiian community from the west side. Ke eaumoku Kapu actually comes from Oahu, but ancestral, I'll say that on Maui is functional. Mahalo to Ke eaumoku, we're going to share about this upcoming event on this island. Mahalo, everybody, pai Ilima. Second, I'd like to call up originally from Hawaii. Now, I actually lived in Maui for a little while, and now on Oahu, finishing up his graduate degree. Mr. Andre Perez. He's come there, share, and his partner is Kumpan, his Hoa, his Makana, Ilima Seto-Long, who also Seto-Long family, ancestral family from Maui also. And she'll be able also to share with Andre talking about their organization's work at the University of Hawaii, especially because of education and self-determination. Mahalo to Ilima. So, we're going to get right into this. And the first one I would like to mahalo one of our trustees, newly elected trustees from the island of Oahu, Le'ahoisa, we can over there. She's over here. Thank you for coming and sharing this with us. If there are any questions in Oahu, you can go But I'd like to just ask our guests, maybe to start off, maybe kind of give an initial, 15 minutes perhaps, 10, 15 minutes on your work, what you'd like to share. And at the completion, if you run down, at the completion perhaps, we may have some time for some audience questions or audience concerns about your work. So I'm going to start off with Brother eaumoku.
Aloha mai Kapu. Okay. I do one slideshow that actually will play for the duration of our talk, and it was about our Ka Āina march back in 2009. Just to get kind of the brain stimulating, and you're probably going to see some familiar faces out there. You can see some depressing things, some pictures that really look good. But I think what needs to happen is through the projection, I mean, kind of keep the dialogue on where we're going next from here. I know 2009 Ka Āina March was an opportunity to kind of get the communities together and try to figure out what we're going to do next. So now, 5 years later, 2015, out of all the trials and tribulations that we've faced from 2009, now 2015 today, I think there's a bigger spin because there's a lot of things happening in the community, especially with the federal government and the Department of Interior, and just a whole bunch of things that are happening at the same time. So we're going to have this kind of continue playing on the places that we went when we did the March around Maui. For myself, well, basically, I was born in Hawaii. And I had to return home on my father's wishes, saying that we gotta come home in Ka Āina. So that was back, I guess, going on 19 years now I've been here. But not knowing that this was the hiapo of my ohana's birth. So came back and literally steered into some political directions. And why I say that is because, I never would find myself back 17 years ago or 16 years ago getting politically involved in all these kinds of politics with the county, state, as well as the federal government. So, back in 2000, 2001, I was kind of appointed by the mayor back then when Alan Arakawa was sitting in his office to sit in as one of the cultural resources commissioners for the county of Maui. I served 5 years. Then later on, simultaneously at the same time, I served in the state Maui Island Borough Council. I served in that capacity for 8 years. 4 of those years I was the chair. Today, previously, now I'm still serving because of something to do with the bylaws. You're only supposed to do 8 years, but they will change the bylaws to allow me to run for another 4 consecutive years. I'm now currently the chair of the Native Hawaiian Stock Preservation Council under the Board of Trustees of the Office of Hawaiian Affairs. And I also serve as an advisory representative for West Pacific Regional Fisheries Management Council. So with that, all that kind of political waka and all that, I would say basically a political wreck. Because I guess my whole involvement in getting involved in all these things was, okay, where do we fit in a society that's Kamaka? And why it wasn't necessary that all of a sudden I made this great leap into this realm by, what was my purpose? Why did I all of a sudden dwell in those areas of learning all these CCNRs, these covenants, these rules, 6E on the federal laws, 13300, the Magnuson-Stevens Act, which is under the federal laws that protect indigenous peoples of the world, understanding the county side on the 343, on the Hawaii Administrative Rules, the Hawaii Revised Statutes that protect rights of Native Hawaiians. Yeah? And found out that, a lot of those things are literally watered. It's watered to a point as to where they only look at dialogue and creating a comfort zone on how can we just get along as Kanakas. Yeah, so that's why I say I'm a political wreck, because still today, still striving, just trying to figure out, okay, where's the avenue or where's the venue that we need to go to find help. So in 2007, we started a process through a lot of kupuna statewide to kind of put together a traditional versus contemporary management system. And now it's known today as the eaumoku Advisory Committee on the DLNR. And I don't like the way it sounds, because when we first started that process, it was to be autonomous from the state, to give the community a grassroots effort to make sure that the recommendations from the community on a traditional management level would resonate, to have the county and the state adopt these kinds of recommendations from the community on better managing our resources on that ocean. Been involved in that for 12 years. I serve today as the CEO for eaumoku Maui Inc. My kuleana is to network with 12 mokus on Maui. Maui has 12 mokus. In 1954, Maui only had 6 mokus because it was a judicial decree on how they were scrunching everybody's kuleanas together to make it, a public trust doctrine. We say we have benefits, we have rights, but under the public trust doctrine, when you look at that, we don't have any rights, we don't have any benefits, we belong to the general trust. Then learning a little bit more about, these CCNRs and covenances, about these small little underlining of what is our pertinent rights and responsibilities as Kanaka. That is the window of opportunity where we got to even work more hard to even try to get to that goal. So I put a whole bunch of pictures up here on what it was actually like to go around. And this was the start of trying to get the community together so we can get leaders to step out from each local, to take responsibilities when it came to the state, the county, and the federal level. Now today, we have representatives all over Maui that serve on the eaumoku councils. Yeah, and there's a few of them over here that got us nervous. I'm not going to mention names, like Gila, but one of them is Jocelyn Costa in the back. She's the representative of the local councils for Po'olau district. So every local, this was the hospice that started the creation of the formation of a council that is based on traditional management, and it's based for, basically follows the guidelines of Hawaii. Yeah, so I have a lot of pictures up here that might be kind of a little bit wrenching on the inside, like dealing with certain issues out there in the political realm. It's going to be a hard step for us. So I just wanted to share a little bit, and the slide will continue on, what is the venue for us as a couple thing. And I just wanted to mention that we go back around the island again, starting February 28th to March 7th, and we're starting from Mokula, doing the ceremony, lighting up the fire. But this time we also walking not just with the torch, but we're walking with the image of Rono Makua. And with the kokua from Hui Aloha taking the petition around the islands and having everybody also get involved by signing the petition, because I think the petition is the wrench to the road call. That's all I can say.
Aloha Aina Kako. Aloha Kaleikoa Ka, Maui Community College for having us here. We represent a group that we formed called MANA, Movement for Aloha No Ka Āina. And I'm just going to start off by reading sharing with you folks who Mana is, why we created Mana, and what we're about, and what kind of work we do. For quite a few years, we engaged in activism, Hawaiian activism, different types of activism, sovereignty, land issues, Malama EV, direct action, me Kaleikoa occupy Ilima Palace, occupation of the Maui burial grounds. But it was all kind of like, we just was sort of fractured in a sense. You know, we wasn't getting the traction that we wanted, or that we felt we needed. And so, I have to say, I really acknowledge Kaleikoa as a teacher and mentor to me in terms of challenging my critical consciousness, raising my critical consciousness, and teaching me a lot about political analysis, theory, and activism. So, actually, it was through Kaleikoa that I started studying and reading, learning about the Black Panthers, and how they were able to achieve the kind of power they had. You really understand the Black Panthers, for their time, they had power. They could stand down the cops, and they had a consistent message from Philadelphia, across the continent, all the way to the West Coast, to Oakland, where they were started. What I saw that was important about the Black Panthers was they said they had the same message and the same consistent politics. And after some reading, I realized it was because they were operating off of a political platform. They created their values, what they believe in and what they don't believe in. And they codified that into a document they called their 13-point platform. And so everywhere you went, Black Panthers had the same message, same belief, same politics. That's very important in organizing. We gotta have good cohesion if you want to have power to push back against the system, to push back against the various apparatuses within the system. You gotta have some kind of people power. So it dawned on me like, hey, we gotta have a political platform. Why not? We gotta be able to be clear about what we believe in. What do we believe in? What do we oppose? Now we have all these issues surrounding us every day. GMO, biotech companies, bioprospecting, of course, sovereignty issues, education, incarceration. So how do we create something that brings people together based on common value, common beliefs, and in essence, we wanted to create some type of basic ideology for ourselves. So 2007, we formed this group, Mana. We created a platform, and in our platform, we put the things that are important to us: sovereignty and independence. We explained what that means to us. We listed popular education, what that means to us. Demilitarization. Yeah? We are against military expansion and military destruction of Hawaiian lands. Yeah? We put in there we have a section on gender and sexuality. We all felt like, hey, for us, any type of gender, sexual preference, our mahu, ohana, is exactly that, ohana. We don't want to isolate or ostracize our ohana. So we put that into our political platform, that we value and we accept all of our kanaka. And we don't discriminate or stereotype or engage in prejudice against mahus. That was important for us. And obviously it was an important part of our community. In our platform, we also put ho'omana kahiko. We believe in the mana of our ancestors and our akua. Yeah? And so, really, we have explanations for all these concepts, all broken down, what it means to us, why it's important. And then it sort of guides us in our activities. So Mana was born, and it was a slow process for us. We slowly pulled in people who had the same passion, same ideas, and we started to really organize and become cohesive. Then we got a little, the cycle, the rhythm of life, taking different places. Mana kind of slowed down. Then we had a big important catalyst happen for us. One of our mentors, one of our leaders, the fire of the movement, Soli Kihe Soli Nihil, passed away. And for us, it really shook us up a little bit. We realized that one generation is passing, and the next generation might not be ready to pick up where they left off. So we wanted to ensure that in this legacy of resistance, political analysis, clear independence analysis, will continue on. So we got that together. We started to redevelop our plans, project our future plans, and organize. And so that's what we do. That's what Mana is about. One of our primary objectives, we're not so much interested in forming some kind of kingdom restoration plan. That's a big thing that we hear about in the Hawaiian community, and especially from organizations like the Office of Affairs. Oh, what's your guys' plan? Oh, you Hawaiians that come together, let me know. Where's your plan? For me, we don't need to have a plan. The plan will be developed by the Lahui. When the Lahui reaches the state of consciousness, is ready to develop that plan together, not a select few here or there, right? So our efforts are more geared towards consciousness raising, education, and nurturing activists, training activists in a community, so that we have good leaders, we have good organizers who have good analysis, understand things like race and racism, understand prejudice, stereotype, labeling, understand how ideology and hegemony works, so we can confront the power with clear analysis and respond. So that's what we're about, Mana. We organize, we train, and really raise consciousness in the community on different issues. And a lot of us in Mana look to Kaleikoa as a inspirational leader to us, a teacher, and other people like Dr. Kekuli Blaisdell, who we worked closely with in the past, has been inspirational. Terry Teko'olani, old-time Hawaiian activist Wahide, who taught us a lot about organizing principles, and many others to come, many others before us. With that, I'm going to pass it off to Ilima and let her tell you guys more on the specifics of what Mana's doing right now in the community, because we got some good stuff going on. Let her tell you.
Aloha mai Kapu. I also want to thank Kaleikoa and Kahale for organizing this, and for Maui College to do something to acknowledge, and help us come together in remembrance of the anniversary tomorrow of the overthrow. We talk about the good stuff that is being done in the community. Mana has gotten involved in different actions and organizing and mobilizing and stuff like that, mostly on Oahu. We also have a student chapter called Hau Mana. The greatest thing about the name Mana is you can just slap anything before it and after and it works, yeah? So you just slap Wahine after, bam, you have Mana Wahine, there's our women's group, female group, right? You have Mana Ohana, just slap Ohana afterwards, and then we have our Ohana family strengthening stuff. But Hau Mana is a student group, and last year at this table was Haley Kani'ehu, she's an artist, a muralist, and she's from Maui. And it was her mural from Mauna Kea that was sort of painted over the messaging, calling out UH's role in the desecration of the mountain. And Hau Mana, organized and mobilized students on campus around that issue. But more recently, over the past year or so, we've been sort of focusing our energies on developing something that can help us build capacity that we can take out to the community, and something that's more of a long-term investment. So have folks seen the book that came out recently called The Nation Rising? The Nation Rising, yeah, Nation Rises. It's a anthology, I guess. So it's a book of many chapters written by many people in the community about Hawaiian dance struggles. And it was a way to sort of honor and mahalo Uncle Ed Greavy's contributions through photography to the movement. He's the one that's taken all those great black and white photos for decades. And so there are the stories around those photos. So it goes through all kinds of our people's struggles, from Maile, Aikāne, to the current Mauna Kea struggle, Ka Āina. It goes through all kinds of marches and protests and struggles that our people have gone through over the past few decades. And so one of the Mana members, Noi Kunir Kaupua, she approached us and said that she wanted to go for a small grant to take some of these stories out and develop it into a curriculum that we could take into the community to help raise consciousness and teach organizing skills to whoever wants it, really. We thought that was a great idea, and so what we've been working on, let me show a picture. We're just starting to pilot it now, but it's called Movement Building for Ea, and this is the participants' workbook. And this takes 4 mo'olelo out of that book, and it brings out the lessons from those mo'olelo. So it's important, Andre's talking about that we want to go and we want to create more organizers, right? We all have passions, we all have ideas, we're on the same page in many ways, but there's not a lot of organizing. Well, there is some good organizing, but there could be more organizing happening in the community. But why not teach about organizing through those who spent their time doing it already, right? Which is our own people, our own kupuna that have gone through these struggles, and that great lessons have come out of these particular struggles. So in this one, we start with the current struggle for, over the telescopes on Mauna Kea. And we use that sort of as a foundational setting to talk about our genealogical connections to land and our sacred places. And we get everybody thinking about that and talking about Ea as a living, breathing concept of sovereignty, right? It's not just something that's in a book, it's not just something that's in law. It's something that takes active engagement with Āina and with our communities to keep alive and well and strong. And then we move on to a student movement that came out of the University of Hawaii. Back Kaleikoa and Kahele were part of the student movement. They formed a group called Make'e And Make'e had a big lofty goal to decolonize the University of Hawaii, which is kind of a huge task, right? But they were able to narrow that goal down to a specific campaign, which was to get a Hawaiian language article in the Kaleo newspaper. And Kaleo wasn't interested in that. And so this story talks about how Make'e sort of waged a campaign and they created a strategy and they had different tactics that escalated over time. And eventually, Kaleo put the Hawaiian language column in the newspaper. So through this module, we talk about, well, first of all, sort of theoretically, we teach participants about institutional racism, right? So this is a way to sort of bring that critical consciousness. Know racism when you see it. Be able to recognize it when you see it and know how it plays out all around us, including in the university. And then in terms of skill building, it talks about strategy and tactics and campaign building. So it gives sort of a real, skillful takeaway from it. We go through all kinds of fun exercises. And then the third module pulls from the story of Kaho'olawe, and it talks about the way that these young people at this time, this young group of Hawaiians, were able to pull from their own culture, pull from our own culture, and bring out this story of Aloha Āina, these values of Aloha Āina, and talk about our connections to Kanaloa, to Kaho'olawe, and bring people in through Maile, connecting, going out talking to the communities, building a broad base of support. And miraculously, this small group of young Hawaiians being able to eventually beat the Navy, the US Navy, right? And get this island back. And so we talk about all of those elements. We have students practice writing, engaging with the media, and talk about reaching out to community and puna and utilizing components such as Maile. And then the last module that we have pulls from Waiahole Aikāne, and it gets more into direct action. So it talks about creating a direct action plan, and we bring a community together. Who's going to deal with what, right? Who's going to deal with cooking? Who's going to deal with media? Who's going to deal with police? Just knowing that at some point, these are things that we may have to think about and to get people thinking about it. It also talks about kuleana and positionality. So one thing that we found that we weren't necessarily expecting with this curriculum is that there are groups out there that are activist-oriented, that are mostly non-Hawaiian, that are finding this curriculum desirable so that they can learn about where they're at. And we have an opportunity to go in and talk to them. This is what activism looks like in Hawaii. This is our history of it. You're not coming into a place that doesn't have already a rich history of struggle and activism and fighting for land. And, by the way, there's this context of sovereignty and occupation that anybody doing activist work here needs to understand, right? And so we talk about, okay, what is your position to this community that you want to support and struggle? Yeah? Are you from this community? Because if you are, then you will be making decisions. You will have certain kinds of kuleana, right? If you're not from this community, well then there's many ways that you can support also, but your kuleana is going to be different. Yeah? So depending on how far out you are, what your connection is to the community, your kuleana is going to be different. So that's what we're doing with Movement Building for Ea. It's a way for us to get into the community, you know, really engage with the community and find people that are really committed to ongoing and continuing struggle to bring in to mana to help us organize as well. Do I have time? Then the other thing. Then the other thing that we're doing is something called mana ohana. And those of us who are most active in mana, we're all parents, we all have young children, we're working, we're going to school, and we're also trying to commit to, you know, struggle and activism. And anybody here who's involved in those kinds of things knows just how taxing it is. Taxing on the family, taxing on the kids. So what we're doing is we're committing to creating spaces once a month where we come together with the whole family, we do some planting, we do it at Hanakehau, at Andre and Camille's farm that they have in Waiapa. We do some planting, we do pule, we share food together, and we do a keiki activity where all the parents sit down and engage with the kids, right? So whether it's drawing, coloring pictures of ali'i, we did a little impromptu hanakeaka, the story of Maui. We're gonna do some stamping this coming Sunday, and then the kids go play, and they're all happy to play together, and then we get to talk politics and organize and plan, right? So we're trying to make this a very family-friendly lifestyle. We can commit to activism, you know, without sacrificing the whole family in the meantime. And that's a struggle to do. So that's the other thing that we're working on. And this year we have some very concrete goals about learning certain pule and protocol together as an organization that we can also utilize out in the community when we represent mana or in protest. And sort of building spiritually strengthening us as a political organization and as families. I think that's all I have to share.
We did come to two main things for me. Again, just to kind of go over the purpose, the goals of this huakai around this island, so everybody can be here. And then secondly, how people can help participate or how people provide support.
Okay, well, maybe I will rewind a little bit. I felt like when I opened up in the beginning, I was kind of too fast for a lot of people, and people coming in the door. The whole reason as to why we took the torch in 2009 because of all the upcoming issues that were occurring back then in 2009. So, you know, we get different kinds of opportunities, and Maui is kind of way different than any of the other islands, I would say. I mean, we're not full overpopulated yet as Oahu is. So I see when you come into getting to a point of community involvement, the manao and the involvement will kind of be a lot different because you're dealing with a wide range of population and different kinds of races. Over here, when we took that torch around Maui, it wasn't just selected to be a brown team. It was to make sure that everybody was aware and everybody was involved. When we got, when we started going around the island in 2009, we did it ceremonially by the traditional lighting of the hau. We did it at Mo'ula, 12 o'clock midnight, with 100 lines of pule. And that was important because in today's, how would you say, political rhetoric life that we live in, our pathetic lives as Kamaka, we gotta kind of reach out to the manao of the past to guide us in the direction that we need to go today. And that's why we had to do things in an orderly fashion to make sure that we address certain kanawai that was written in the laws of Ka Āina. One of them that still resonates today was the law of the splintered path. That when I called a meeting with the police department and the fire department and the county planning department and sat them down and said, we're walking around the island. And these are the kind of things that we're going to be talking about, and these are the kind of issues that we want you to be aware of. And we're not asking them, we're telling them we're going around the island because we need to bring our communities together, to focus on one venue, to focus on one thing, one goal, so we can bring everybody together. Everybody together. The Kanaka and the Malahini, everybody needs the Maui because, yeah, we're the minority, of course. But the minority, the majority is starting to see the crooked ways of what we've been dealing with for the past 127 years. So there is a process that had to do with tradition. To encompass a tradition in our contemporary life, so we can go walk around the island and gather the manao from our kupuna and our moku that lives in every moku. Why? Because we need to deal with the bigger beast out there. And the bigger beast is sitting on these commissions on the CRC, the Borough Council, and the NHHBC. You learn a lot. You learn a lot then. You're still the majority when you're sitting at the table and only get 9 people that's supposed to represent the majority, but you're still the minority, even if you're still the chair too, because it's a 9-member vote. But it's all homogenized to make us feel better that we actually sitting on a position that makes a difference. I can attest to that. It doesn't make a difference. So that's why we went to the roads. That's why we took the torch around the island. And like I said, 5 years later, now there's a new spin. And the time is now, 2015. We get the federal government breathing down our neck saying, come on, Kanakas, we can help you. We can help you solve all your problems. Just grab my hand and I will lead you to that pot of gold on the big shiny rainbow over there. Right? So everybody, they're getting all nervous already. They're getting impatient. They're jumping into things too fast without thinking. So, it's not my show. We did this because we felt we needed to. I'm just a vessel. Somebody else driving this car. And when I say that Maui is different, it's because we still held on to the traditions of the past. when you go to Ko'olau Popo, Ko'olau Loa, yeah? When you go to, Hanapua Popo, Hanapua Loa, Ko'olau, Hana, Kipahulu, Kaupo, Kahiki Nui, Onoapula, Kula, down to Āina. I've been in this so long, I know every moku in Oahu by name. And I'm to the point where I know almost every aupua, yeah, in 5 mokus. I don't quite get down all the 12 yet, but there's at least in Maui alone 156 aupua. But knowing that and having that energy to share that information out there to the community and having the community grasp this and say, it's time for us to step up. It's time for us to make the recommendations and not allow somebody on a minority, a majority that will make decisions for us. We gotta stop not asking, we gotta stop telling them that this is the way things are gonna happen here. All because there was a breach of contract somewhere, sometime 120 something years ago. And now that we get Nakapaka in the college level, learning a lot of these things, yeah? Now we just gotta figure out, okay, what will be the process for us guys to go forward, go inside that office, do a cease and desist and shut this government down, this regime down for a while until we, until we really start getting down to the reality of who we are as individuals. So we're in with the torch. And we're asking for everybody's support in this walk around now, because this walk around will be more important. We get jostling with Hui Ho going around with the petition. We get Obama, he's on his way out. Wouldn't it be nice to have the 1887 petition joined with another 100 and something thousand signatures of heirs today to go in front of Obama and say, sign the executive order now. But these kinds of things are powerful. So like I said, I just the vessel somebody else driving the car. And I'm hoping that, you know, everybody in this room, when you start getting calling, when we go be down the pool at 12 o'clock midnight and we're lighting that fire to take the walk, this walk is going to be the walk of life. But we're no longer going to, who knows, we're no longer going to just bend down and just take it. We're going to say it's our time now, and we're going to move forward, we're going to follow the walk, and nobody can tell us anymore. So, Maile. And I get some guidance with everybody that get in touch with me, that I get involved. I need somebody for help me start the fire. And when we start going around the mokus, I think Justin will need help with the petitions too. So go Ka. I got a flyer on the board. Maybe we can freeze them in that area so people can take the information. So mahalo.
Mahalo. Okay, Andre, you have to follow up ideas. You always do that, but one thing I just wanted to, in closing, really talk on, mention one important philosophy that we identify as how we organize and how we do our work. Yeah? And for years of activism, we started to realize it doesn't build the power that we need. It's like temporary. We all mobilize down to Ilani Palace, hold sign, hold the flag, then everybody go home and power disappears. So we started to realize we gotta build and create long-lasting forms of power. So we kind of create this philosophy that we, not really a philosophy, but this idea that we see in terms of how we balance our efforts. So Ku is good, yeah. Sometimes it's not a Ku. The bulldozers are coming. We gotta go stop them. And then, but the more important part for us is Kulu, to build and create, yeah. So that we build forms of power that outlast us. So with our organization, Mana, we're hoping to build something that will last. With the consciousness raising that we do in the community, we're hoping that consciousness grows. As Ka Āina has talked about, many of you have heard in the past, use that word virus. We want the consciousness of our people to spread like a virus. so that it's beyond just us and our temporary mobilizations. So when we think about now how we apply our energy and time, think about ku'e, kukulu, and how much time do we put towards each one. For me, for most of us in Mana, we're more interested in the kukulu part, to build, and then we ku'e as needed when necessary. In closing, I wanted to share with you guys something. It's our whole kind of foundation really is about critical consciousness. I wanted to share this poem, and this poem represents kind of a journey of my own consciousness. And two critical people who are inspirational for this poem, of course, Kaleikoa, and this other friend of mine who's a poet who inspired me one night. His brother Molokai. He's sometimes known as the Panelists Prince. Yeah. So one night we were sitting on his porch having a few beers, and he started reciting all this poetry to me. The brother went on for like hours, and I was to say the least, I was moved and inspired by his words and his thoughts and how he codified them into something. So it inspired me to write this poem that I titled "Wake Up, Wise Up, Rise Up." So I'll share it with you. The first section is waking up. It goes like this. One day, I woke up from somebody else's dream. I didn't know it, but I was living in a crime scene. Me. The crime was all around, normalized by society. It penetrated deep, it was even inside of me. I didn't know it, somebody lied to me. I realized something wasn't right when Brother Kaleikoa turned on the light, and I found out, God damn, Jesus wasn't white. Fakes, phonies, frauds. Now I believe in gods. One for every realm and kuleana. It makes sense to me. More gods, more money. I used to think mom and dad had let me down, but it wasn't all their fault. They didn't know. They were trying not to drown, alienated in their own lost and found, blind and unable to see. They were being controlled by foreign vices, hegemonic ideologies, in a messed up economy. Wising up. Now I know, I can feel the dirt is not dirty. The rain makes me happy, setting me on my own journey of indigenous heresy, rejecting, breaking, and discarding colonial legacies. I wipes away the makapia to reject the old and learn a new worldview. But the new is really the old. We just didn't know because our vision was skewed. Wow. Somebody get a gun that shoots bullets of truth and aim it at the youth. Blast away the chains on their brains, the hegemonic controls that render us mentally, physically, spiritually lame. Move the center, let Ku Kanaloa back in. Kicking them out was the original sin. Fill your gourd so it's no longer empty and hollow. Take a drink, swallow, free your mind, and your ass will fall. Rising up. Now I'm moving forward with a method that's indigenous, remapping my way towards a Kanaka critical consciousness. Confident and stronger, I feel uncertainty slip away as I step into the darkness of a brand new day. No longer afraid of the boogeyman that somebody else made. Now I have politics that have meaning and purpose, even though some believe my analysis is worthless, it really doesn't matter because I believe in my kupuna. I got thick skin. I can take licks, punches, hits and kicks that will never change my independence politics. Yeah, I've been forced marched through their valley of their shadow of death. But today I'm a born-again Kanaka, and the Ahupua is what comforts me. Even though sometimes I feel alone with opposition all around me, I got 400,000 gods everywhere surrounding me. So never be afraid to confront, challenge, and break foreign ideologies, social norms, constructs, and Western hypocrisy. We must be the navigators of our own destiny. Always remember, never forget, they will never ever stop trying to keep us down and unconscious. But as long as we believe in ourselves, stand pono and principle, our lahui will remain invincible. Mahalo.
I'm going to get into speaking one. Ilima, you have a point too.
But I did just want to, you know, like I said, we're kind of struggling to just do what we're trying to do outside of our jobs and families and everything. So this is all our extra time also. And if you want to check out the Mana platform, it can be found. We do a little plug here, manainfo.com. You can also get on our email list there. We don't have a Mana Maui yet. But if you go on there and the things that you see resonate with you, please do get in contact with us, because we also want to be bringing ea if folks feel that there's a need. When we created it, we have high schoolers and young college folks in mind, but we're seeing that a lot of people want it more than just that age group. But if there's, if you see a need for it or something like that, come in, talk about these things that we talk about. And I'm gonna go sit, I don't know, I'll go sit over there. So if anybody wants to come check this out more, come check it out, come talk to me and talk story. And we would love to get other folks involved, especially on this wonderful, strong island. That's all. Mahalo.
I'd like to call up, where did she go? Oh, yeah, please can you come up and share about the aid petition before we get right into the play. So remember, this is a play. Audience participation now, audience participation. So.
Okay. I just want to very quickly say, about 2010, I believe, the people, the civic club, who is also known as the Queens Women, brought this play to Maui College. And I was one of the people in that audience, and it touched me so deeply that I cried, and the next 2 weeks later I got to see it again, and I've never forgotten it. And when the the Department of Interior hearing started this year, that was the signal for Jocelyn Costa and myself, Claire Pana, to get going, to get the petition ready to be signed again, to join our kupuna on, you might look at it this way, we're making a roll where we are joining our kupuna on the Kue petition and putting our names there to say, we are the nation that is still here today. Thank you, and here's Jocelyn Costa.
Aloha. So when the DOI came to Maui, I needed to find a way to identify myself to what they were offering us. And the only place I could find was on the Hui Ho. And I'll have this displayed at the back, but on here is a genealogy to my kupuna on the petition. To the right side is the Kane, to the left side is the Wahine. There was a husband and wife that signed. Under the Kane had all of his sons all the way to 2 years old. One of those boys is this picture here. He had a daughter. She had a son. That's my father. The only reason why we have a picture of him and he was 10 years old at the time, was because they took him to Kaleikoa Ka. So it's kind of a bittersweet story, but we have a face to the signature of the Hui petition. And for me, it's important because we are the remainder of our kingdom. Prior to the illegal action of 1893, the Queen put our legislature into recess. So she quieted that, nobody can touch. Then they imprisoned our Queen, waiting for them to right the wrong. No one has ever touched the people. We still exist through this petition. No one can touch this petition but us. It comes from our kingdom. It comes from the instruction from our Queen. And James Kaulia said, protest forever until the last Hui Aloha, until the last patriot. So why stop? Why stop? When I presented this to the DOI, I was able to have 6 generations out of 7 actually put into the exact same document. The only one missing is my grandmother, but she was never given that opportunity. It was hidden from us. Now that it's back out there for us, we should continue this. This is our link back to our kingdom. This is where our voice comes back, where they have to address us now. We become real. So we have reprinted more of the petitions. All we're asking is, find your kupuna on the original petition, and join yourself with them. Find the moku you live in, sign your name where you're living, and right next to your name, put your kupuna's page and line number so you will join back with them. You align back with them. We're going to compile this, and we're going to present this to the United States and tell them, now you need to answer to us. Maybe you wasn't talking to us before because everybody on the petition passed away already. But now that we come back, put our mana back on that paper, deal with us. Deal with us.
Okay, thank you. Sorry. Yeah. So we gotta keep to the schedule. 6:15. So I'd like to mahalo everybody. Give a great hand to our eaumoku, Ilima for sharing. Sorry, but we'll try to get to the second half. Before we actually start the okay, so all of you are participating in a play, especially those with the signs. You need to kind of gather in the back area. In the back area. And so we'll be starting in about 5 minutes, but while we're waiting, I want to kind of give a little background of course we can understand where we're heading with this particular play. So let me just say, first of all, on behalf of the Hawaiian Studies Department at this campus, I'm very happy, pleased, and thankful to all of you who came out to participate and share this evening. As we try to remember some important dates in history prior to the events of this evening with the reenactment of this play. So first of all, this particular play is a reenactment of an actual event, a true historical event that happened in Hawaii in 1897. Miriam, like Michael said, was a writer with the, I think, San Francisco Examiner, if I remember right. And she comes to Hawaii, and her main objective was to kind of find out, well, what's going on in Hawaii in regards to this question of annexation. Many of you may not know, but in fact, the question of Hawaii really was a huge question for the United States At that time, the United States were dealing with this question, would they remain a republic or would they become an empire itself? That really was the question that it was put in front of the United States. So much of the newspapers across the United States were looking at Hawaii, examining the history of Hawaii, kind of asking that question, whether or not the question of even putting Hawaii to the Senate for ratification, not just being legal, but really being something that was moral in regards to the standards of the United States. As we understand, the U.S. principles of law and the Constitution, of course, they had the idea the consent of the governed and to be governed themselves. But let's step back a little bit of the history. Kind of move up 8 standing on stages. So if we kind of go back, just running through a real quick history, we realize when we talk about the Hawaiian Kingdom period, and we look at the year of 1810 as really the basis and the founding of the Hawaiian Kingdom. That's because this is recognized when Kamehameha is said to have unified all of the Hawaiian Islands after the cession of Kauai under him. So begins the Hawaiian Kingdom period. Kamehameha, of course, dies and is followed by his son, who, Liho, who in his tenure as the new Mo'i, as the King of Hawaii, actually takes a trip to England to meet with, I think, King George V at that time, really to clarify what the relationship would be between the Hawaiian Kingdom and Great Britain. Now, many of you may not know, but actually the Hawaiian Kingdom is considered a protectorate. Actually, it seated itself under the control of Great Britain at that time. But it kind of was still in this kind of very unclarified relationship. And so this is why Liho takes a trip to England. It wasn't because he was out there taking a vacation. He was actually out there as the head of the Hawaiian Kingdom to kind of clarify a relationship at this point. Unfortunately, of course, he and his wife Mamalu, they both passed away in Great Britain at that time. And then the kingdom is passed to his younger brother, Kauli, who becomes Kamehameha III. And really, it's during the period of Kamehameha III's reign where you have the greatest changes that occur in the Hawaiian Kingdom. It's under his reign where Kamehameha III would transform the so-called Hawaiian Kingdom from a autocratic, where he is he is the state, he is the government, he is the voice, the legislature. And in 1839, the Hawaiian Kingdom is transformed via Declaration of Rights. Following that, in 1840, the first Hawaiian Constitution is enacted. Now, what's important about that, from 1840 on, the Hawaiian Kingdom is no longer a kingdom that's ruled by just under the powers of one king, but in fact becomes a constitutional monarchy, and really based upon the British model. You have the legislature, you have the judiciary, of course, and you have the executive branch, the king, who also had a privy council, just like the British system. It's also a period where education transforms the Hawaiian Islands. The Hawaiian people at this time, during the reign of Kamehameha III, are considered, in fact, the most literate society in the world. The education is held at a premium. And virtually in 20 years, the Hawaiians become totally literate. Hawaiians read newspapers and read news from all over the world. So if you actually got a chance to look at the Hawaiian language newspapers, you'd see the kind of stuff they're actually reading. Now, you gotta compare this to other great countries at that time. If you look at Great Britain, France, Italy, you would realize their literacy rate, in fact, was way, way lower than the Hawaiian Kingdom. And of course, it took the fact that the Hawaiian Kingdom also was one of the first countries that had compulsory education, which meant that everybody had to go to school. Education wasn't just for the aristocracy and the rich and the wealthy. Education was something that belonged to everybody. So the first thing I always tell our people, Hawaiians, to remember, education has always been part of our worldview. Education is something new for Hawaiians. Education is something we're returning to. Now, Kamehameha III, unfortunately, when he dies, the kingdom is passed to his nephew, in a sense, who was managed by him, and that's Kamehameha IV, Alexander Liho, who marries Queen Emma. And this is Liho, Queen Emma. He passes on, of course, and goes to his older brother, who I'm trying to. Commandment of 5, my brain just went disappeared.
And I got that on
Lot. Kapu Āina. And he becomes commandment of 5, and actually has a very strong reign. And he dies unfortunately without naming an heir. And following the Hawaiian Constitution at that time, they elected the first elected Mo'i of Hawaii. That was Lunalilo, who was really the people's choice, loved by the people. He dies after 11 months of a reign, although a very beloved king, and he dies, and they have another election, and this of course is when Kaleikoa is elected king. Kaleikoa actually is one of the more important monarchs, and he kind of takes the Hawaiian kingdom, not just from the big, little islands, little Pacific, but he actually goes out to the world. And Kaleikoa is the first head of state to I'm sorry, just continue. No. Okay, I got a few minutes, I guess. So they've been throwing me out already. Yeah, so. But yeah, as I said, Kaleikoa is the first head of state to actually go and circumnavigate the world. He also set up and becomes the International Postal Service. When he travels across the United States, he's the first head of state to dine at the White House, or foreign head of state. He goes across Europe, he has a huge entourage. He went out, he used to hang out and have dinner with people like Alexander Graham Bell, and then people like Thomas Edison, and some of the more famous people of his time. He goes, in fact, to India, to Singapore, in fact, eventually to Japan before he comes to Hawaii. He actually tries to set up a confederation of Pacific nations under Hawaii. In the sense of kind of, as he saw around the world, if the Pacific people were going to survive, he understood that we have to kind of unite all our various nation island kingdoms together. Unfortunately, in 1887, Kaleikoa, as weakened as he was, many of the plantation descendants and owners at that time, American missionary descendants, basically, as we say, in the point of a gun to what's called the Bayonet Constitution, pushed in an illegal constitution, which really takes away a lot of power from Kaleikoa and really the Hawaiian people. First of all, it takes away voting rights from many of the people who did not qualify because of not having enough cash. It also allowed foreigners who were non-citizens of the Hawaiian Kingdom to vote as long as they had enough cash. So you can see what the point of the change in the Constitution was all about. He dies, his sister, Lydia Makaeha, Liliu takes the reign in 1891. The first thing that Liliu does is actually takes a tour of all the islands to go hear from the people. What does she hear from the people? We need a new constitution. We want to have a right back to vote, more participation in the government. And as the great Liliu Kalani has always said, the voice of the people is the voice of God. And this is what the reason is for her actions in 1893. So in 1893, January, of course, she's getting ready to promulgate a new constitution. And this becomes the catalyst for the so-called rebels to enact their plan in conspiracy with representatives of the United States, General Stevens, in the landing of U.S. Marines, later called by President Cleveland an act of war. Now what's important about this history is that Queen Okani never gives up to the provisional government. That's part of the mythology. In fact, who does she yield to? To the superior forces of the United States forever, until such time when they present the evidence they go reinstate. In other words, very clear. She never gives up to the provisional government. She turns to the United States and says, hey, I'm going to temporarily give over my power, her executive power. Remember now, she doesn't have the power to give away the whole country. She's just the executive of the branch. Yeah. So, but she used the United States first of all, and she only used temporarily. You can actually read it for yourself. But take a Hawaiian studies class, you can learn about it. Yeah. Now, following this becomes a crux of the matter. President Cleveland calls the act here an act of war. He sends a representative, James Blount, who comes to Hawaii, does a huge investigation. You have what's called the Blount Report, and you can read that on the web. 440 pages, gives you a detailed blow of what went on at the time. The provisional government, when they realized that they couldn't move forward with a treaty, which were the goal, as Cleveland shut it down, they transformed themselves to call themselves and become the Republic of Hawaii. The Republic of Hawaii. Later on in 1897, now, after a change of administration, Cleveland is out, new president comes in. Which president is coming in now? McKinley comes in, yeah, great expansionist, imperialist. But we must remember ourselves that according to the United States Constitution, their own Constitution, Article 2, Section 2, Subsection 2, it says basically, the executive branch, they have the right to negotiate a treaty. But a treaty is only a treaty when it's ratified by 2/3 of the Senate. This is where we find ourselves at this moment, at this play. The Hawaiians, in reaction to what's going on, they're organizing. And many of the two leagues, Ka Āina and Hui Ho, and really it's the women. The women go out to the community. And when they go out to gather support through via the 2A petitions, as you heard earlier, people come out from all over, from the valleys, of Kapu, where you have you. They didn't need any slick campaigns, they didn't need fancy commercials. People came out to affix their names to these petitions to basically say they do not give consent to the United States to take Hawaii. These petitions are then later taken and put on the Senate floor, along with the Queen's official protests. And what happens to the proposed annexation in 1897? What happens to the petition again, to the treaty? It fails. Repeat, the treaty fails. As I tell my students, if you can find a treaty, you get an A in my class. But I know you will keep on digging and you won't find one. Anyway, so this is where we find ourselves right at this moment. Well, the Hawaiians are organizing. Yeah, their right of free speech, their right forever to document how they feel about what's going on in regards to the proposed annexation of the Hawaiian Islands. We ready? Right on.
The strongest memory I have of these islands is the meeting house of the Salvation Army in Hilo on the island of Hawaii. It was a small, crude place, enough for 300 people, I believe. Bare rafters could be seen overhead, and the bare walls were improved with some biblical teachings written in English and Hawaiian. Don't boast about yourself for tomorrow. Without Christ, there is no salvation. As I entered, the bell of the foreign church standing atop a beautiful bluff of Hilo rang 10 times. This place is filled with Hawaiian people, and outside, a crowd of people who could not come inside were standing patiently. This was a meeting conducted by the women. Nevertheless, several groups of men had come here. The women wore Mother Hubbard dresses of calico or cloth and wore white and black sailor hats. The men were dressed in coats and pants made like those of the Americans. Then the multitude of people separated, and 2 tall women entered who were dressed in black clothing. They wore black kid gloves with black hats that were decorated with black feathers. The slightly taller of the 2 had the noble and dignified demeanor of a queen. Red roses encircled the top of her hat, and lying upon her neck and breast was a lei expertly made from some flowers, which were woven with palakalai ferns. She was Mrs. Ka Campbell, the president of Hui Aloha No. Her companion was the secretary of the group's branch in Kilo, Mrs. Emma Navahi. There are 100,000 people on the islands. Of these, not 3% have declared for annexation. To the natives, the loss of nationality is hateful, aberrant. It is the old battle. White man against the brown, might against right, strength against weakness, power and intellect and art against docility, inertia, and simplicity. A man suffering from an acute attack of annexation mania said to me, "I tell the natives that work for me, you might as well walk out into the sea and attempt to push out the incoming wave with your two uplifted hands as to try to prevent what's coming. It's purely a question of conquest, I admit. We are stronger and we'll win. It's a survival of the fittest." He was a tall man, majestic, handsome-faced, 3/4 haole, as they say here. His hands were gripped tightly in front of him, and he looked down upon the heads bowed before him and gave a few short words of prayer for the opening. There is something impressive in strong prayers spoken in an unfamiliar language. You do not hear words, but tones. He was appealing with his feelings, not his reason. And then the voice of the minister ended. And the audience replied, Amen. I watched Mrs. Navahi with curiosity when she stood and spoke to the people. I had never heard two women speak to the multitudes like this. Would this Hawaiian woman be embarrassed, timid, or self-conscious? None of these things. Her candid manner was like Charlotte Perkins Stetson's 2 years ago, the most interesting speaker of the Women's Congress. The thoughts of the Hawaiian woman were of her subject, not of herself. There was something pleasing in her manner of speaking which compelled me to look at her, while the person who translated for me by my side whispered her translation to me, all the while the words were being spoken.
He la hui kanaka na bali kako, ka la hui Hawaii. A ole hoi o kako I kaika. Koi vale no, ko kako lo kahilike.
We are a weak nation of people, we Hawaiians, and we have no power unless we are united.
O Amerika hui puia, he aina ku o koaia. O na kanaka o laila, he mau ho aloha. He mau ho aloha hoi, no ka la hui na vali.
The United States of America is an independent land, and the people there are friends. They are friends indeed of weak nations.
E ho ike aku kako yalako. E ho ma ike aku kako yalako. E like me ko lako, aloha I ko lako aina. A awamo ina eha, mamua o ka haawi anako. Pela no ko kako aloha, I ko kako aina. A e ona nonoi aku. A ale lako e lave maya kako aku.
We will show them and we will make them understand that just as they love their land and would endure suffering before giving it up, so do we love our land, and we pray that they do not take it from us.
O ko kako mana olana, e ia ke kune, me ke kupa, he po'ohiwi me ke po'ohiwi, he pu'uwai me ka pu'uwai.
Here is our home, standing shoulder to shoulder, heart to heart.
O ka leo o na kanaka, o ka leo no ia o ke akua.
The voice of the people is the voice of God.
He oia i'o, e lohe ana Ka Āina ma ke la au o ka moana, I ko kako leo ualo, e wawalo hele aku ai, alohe mākou.
Surely the country on that side of the ocean hears our call for help. By joining our voices to cry for help, they will hear.
Ma keia palapala kakao inoa mai I keia la. O oi e na wahine o Hawaii. Ua loa ia oi he wā e no oi.
Upon this petition of ours that we are submitting for signatures today, you, the women of Hawaii, have a chance to express your thoughts.
O ka palapala o nā kāne e ho'una ia mai ana no. E ka hui o nā kāne I ka wā e pauai I ke kakao inoa ia.
The men's petition will be sent on by the men's group as soon as the signing of the names by the men in Honolulu is complete.
A'ole ke ia e mauhana e pa. A'ole ho'i he ho'opuni-puni ma ko kako alahele o ka hana. O ke ia wale no ko kako alahele e hakaka ai.
These are not underhanded actions, nor is our course of action deceitful. This is our only way to fight.
E ike nā mea ākau. A e ho'omaupopo I ko kako palapala ho'opili.
Everyone may see and know of our petition.
O ke ia aina, no kako oi, ko kako Hawaii.
This land is ours, our Hawaii.
Pehea, e ho'onele ia ane ko kako la hui?
Shall we be deprived of our nationality?
E ho'ohui ia ane kako me Amerika?
Shall we be annexed to America? At this time, the minister introduced a woman, Mrs. Kapu, to the people. She spoke with pleasant smiles, and the men and women stamped in approval and cheered. She spoke only a few words filled with hope. Sometimes she spoke as if she were persuading them all to trust her, with sincerity and gentleness of voice, as she leaned forward and said,
E kupa'a e ku'u mau ho'aloha. Stand firm, my friends. O ke aloha I Ka Āina, he mea nui ia oi a mea au. Ma mua o na mea a pau. Love for the land is more important to you and me than anything else. E koa, e ikaika, e vivo ole me ka ho'omanawa nui. Be brave, be strong, be fearless and steadfast. Our time will come. E hiki mai ana ko kako, me kakao inoa e kia pamapala hoki na poi I aloha ya Hawaii. Sign your names to this petition, you people who love Hawaii. E hiala e kakao inoa ana. How many indeed will sign?
She waved her gloved hands as she spoke, and immediately hundreds of waving hands were turned to her. Dark hands with short fingers and worn fingernails. They showed of poverty and work, of contact with the land they claimed.
He mea kakao ni pepa ia I nei. E o lelo aku ia I ko o ku manako. A laila, ike mai na Amerika. A laila, malia o ho'olohe mai la ku.
What is it? What did she say? Here is a writer for the newspaper, she says. She
says to the people, tell her your feelings, then America will know and perhaps they will listen.
And at this time, something amazing happened. The men and women all stood up one by one and spoke a few words of faith.
My opinion, this is my opinion. I'm not my man.
I love this land. I don't want to be annex. This is the land that I was born. I love this land. Like the Americans love his. Would he really want to be annexed to another larger land?
She must be restored. We will never consent to annexation. I have a very proud and pure Hawaiian mother. It is the land of my mother that I love. America has performed an unjust act. How could we love America? I will never
Simple America, I don't want annexation. I want my beloved people.
That speaker, he is a good man. He is a Christian and honest person, kind and charitable.
I oppose annexation. Even my entire family.
I am speaking for the people behind us. They cannot answer, therefore they cannot speak. They told me to say, no annexation, that's all. I am from here, Kaleikoa, the place we call Rio right now. We have 300 members. They are accepting here. We really oppose annexation, all of us. I love my land and oppose annexation. We look to America as our friend, they are not our enemy.
I am from Maui. I'm not here too. The people of Maui oppose annexation. There are free people. They is annexed to America. All of that is lost. Foreigners are gathered with benefits and Hawaiian people working positions that they are doing.
I have never heard. I'm going to be my I'll show you how in Hawaii. I stand, we all stand to show our love for our country and Hawaiian land. Not American land.
Like they say, history alive, history alive. That is actually an account from, again, a reporter from San Francisco who attended an actual meeting in Hilo. And so the comments that you heard were actually comments that she recorded that evening. Yeah, so we say, history alive. We look to the past to guide us into the future. Now, at this time, I'm going to bring up, where is he at? There. It's the friend from in the back. Okay, anyway. But before I introduce, I'd like to say, I'd like to aloha, Trustee Hulu Lindsay back there, Maui trustee, for coming and sharing, and one of the great supporters here in Hawaiian Studies, Mahalo for your support. I'd also like to recognize one of my mentors, standing in the back there, Brother Akut Makanane. Makanane is one of the original Aloha No warriors, in fact, who was arrested on Ka Āina in 1977, and he's still fighting Aloha even to this day. Well, just like Brother Maka, we're very fortunate to invite from Molokai someone who's also a mentor to us, younger people today. But he also, as we say, the original Aloha warriors who brought forward the rebirth of this national consciousness. The idea of Aloha Āina as an ideology. Aloha to love, of course, Āina, that which feeds us, our land itself. Because I always tell my students, Aloha Āina isn't a feeling, it's not just that. Aloha is a verb. Aloha is something you do. Aloha is action. And so we talk about Aloha Āina is the act of showing compassion and love for that which feeds us. And this gentleman from Molokai really represented that spirit. As one of the who probably can share a little bit about that inspiration. And the great news for this person is he still struggles on even to this day. And so without further ado, I'd like to call up one of my also mentors and someone who's become a very great leader for our people more and more every day, tying in all the different kinds of issues that are affecting our people, but really one who loves the land and loves our people. And this Brother Walter Ritte from Molokai. Please come on.
Wow. What's really impressing me right now is all of you. If you look around you, just look around you, okay? Look in the back, look in the front, look on the side, see who's here tonight. Okay? We have young people, we have old people, we have all kinds of colors. Unreal. I want to say congratulations to all of you for being here tonight. All of you for coming tonight. You guys, this gives us all hope that something good will come, even though we all mad at this government that we have now, we all piss off and all kinds of stuff. There is hope for all of us. So I want to share with you tonight a little story. In a couple of months, I'm going to be 70 years old, so it's a story of experience. It's not something that I would learn from anybody. And I want to share it because I think if we know where we came from, they're really going to have a clear picture of where we're going. So I really believe in that. So I want to take you back a little bit to the 1970s. In the 1970s, we had, as Hawaiians, we had almost nothing. We didn't know our language. We didn't know there was an overthrow. We didn't know our history. All we knew was that people were building hotels, they were building all kinds of buildings, and in the process was destroying all of the things that our kultura built. So our hope of learning anything was being destroyed every day. We couldn't go to the places that our kupuna went in order to get food to feed the family. There were no trespassing signs all over the place. There were gates and fences for the cows. Those fences, they told us, was to keep the cows in, but they actually was to keep us out. So back then, we got a call from the island of Maui. This island was the beginning of the whole Ka Āina story. And I know because we still got some Maxwells running around the place in the back over there. Charlie Maxwell was the one who came up with the idea. An idea that nobody knew was going to turn into such a big event. So right there is lesson number one. You cannot really sit and plan for years and years in order to get exactly what you want in the future. A lot of times it's going to take sheer na'au. It's going to take action where you just know what is right, know what is wrong, and do what is right no matter what. So when it came to Ka Āina, they were killing an entire island. They were killing this island. When you went there, you knew this island wasn't going to last. They were killing an island. And the bombs was destroying the very history that we were in love with. They were destroying the last remnants of our history because our people did not write books. So those two things drove us to say, we will not. The word only was inside of us to the max. No. No. And we really didn't know who we were talking to. We knew these guys were bombing. And we knew that they were the military of the United States of America. But we really didn't know exactly what these guys were all about. See, when I got the call from Charlie, I was in a pool hall. Hustling guys was hustling me. So we were like totally, I don't know what you call it. We never know nothing about politics. We never know nothing about nothing. We were just one more guy enjoying what we enjoying the moment. So I'm telling you this because when I look out in this audience, and especially when I see the young people, and I remember where I was in my head at this age. I didn't know my language, I didn't know my platform, I didn't know it was an overthrow. I didn't know anything. It gives me hope, and it should give all of us hope, because if you just start from this level, and you realize that this government that is running us is going to hell, is going down, I mean, it's crashing. The people with money is just destroying our government because they want more and more and more. And the more they get, the less we get. We're getting poorer and poorer. And the less we get, the more angry we get with one another, the more we get upset to each other. We get all irritated. So that is happening. But if anything, I want to leave with all of you is that there is hope. Okay, there is hope in our young people. When we did Ka Āina, all we had, and it was a great gift, that was the kupuna. The kupuna was the one who told us whether we were right or we were wrong. We didn't know the laws. We didn't know our history. We didn't know whether it was right or wrong. We just knew something inside. And when the kupuna said, yes, boy, go, we went. I don't care if your name was Judge King or the United States government or anybody. When the kupuna said go, we went. And that was where we got our knowledge from, was from the kupuna. Today, we have much, much more. We have institutions like this, people like Kaleikoa, University of Hawaii, Oahu. People went to the United States and got the petitions, they got the laws that was broken, everything is analyzed, we have facts, we have legal, we're out. Not only county level, state level, federal level, and now we're into the international level. We have so much action going for us as Hawaiians. That is going on. What we need to do as a people is we need to take all of the little steps. The steps like this gentleman right here is asking us to join with him. Steps that are Ku-A steps. As many Ku-A steps as possible. That allows us to move forward as a people. And when we are going, we have to listen to people who are telling us what is the laws, what is the facts. Not only did we know there was an overthrow when we were growing up, we didn't know anything about annexation. We didn't have any of the facts. So there's no excuse anymore for us. There's no excuse for us not to win this battle. We cannot allow what is going on. The same feeling we had for Ka Āina, when the island was dying, all of our resources are disappearing. Fishes in the ocean, the things that we gather at the oceans, we cannot drink the water. We cannot even have water in our rivers anymore. Maui has huge water battles going on, the east and the west. We have major problems that we gotta solve. We have to solve them, all of them. In the meantime, the goal is a goal that we had even back with Ka Āina days. We talked about sovereignty, and it was something very, very simple in our minds. Today, we can almost taste it. We have so many groups. We have so many groups out there that are not waiting around. Some are forming deoccupation groups, decolonization groups. We're forming all kinds of groups. We've got kings coming out of the woodwork. We've got queens coming out of the woodwork. And that's good. Because we're not just sitting back. And it gives us, as a people, choices. Our job is to listen very carefully to these groups, find out which groups make sense and which groups don't make sense. And if you don't have the time to do that, pick your leaders. People like Kaleikoa. his whole life is out there listening to all of these groups and studying all of the laws and things like that. When they speak, we need to follow. In the 70s, the goal in the 70s was to make all of us Haulis. That was the goal. That was my parents' goal. That was everybody's parents' goal, because they knew that if we didn't understand Haole ways, we would all suffer. We had to be successful in the Haole world, to the point where we didn't understand who the hell we were. I graduated from Kamehameha schools in 1963. I was a full-on Haole. I could make it San Francisco, New York. I could go anywhere and be successful. But I knew nothing about my Hawaiian self here. So if you look at that picture and what's going on now, there's a big change. There is hope for all of us. We know what our kuleana is. Our kuleana is to make sure that our future generations have the same resources that was handed down to us. This government is just putting a price tag on all of our resources. Our aina, water, fish, all of the resources is just a price tag. They have no clue that there is a kuleana to our future generations. That is the battle that we have to win. And for me, the best way to win that battle is for us to get our kingdom back again. Because our kingdom was based on Hawaiian values to people who live in the middle of the Pacific. They knew how to survive here. If we keep following this American government, we are not going to survive here. So that's why we need to get our young people to understand how we're going to take those many steps to bring back our kingdom, not because of power, but because we need to survive as Hawaiians in the middle of the Pacific. And we have the answers on how to do that. So mahalo nui, Lord, for inviting me over here tonight. And coming here, it gives me hope that Maui is solid. That Maui is involved in Kaho'olawe. And Maui is going to be involved because of this institution and leaders like this, making sure that one day the kingdom of Hawaii will return. Mahalo.
Just to also remind ourselves, so if you get any questions about the Q&A petitions, like we had the name to it, we have Jocelyn and the gang back there waving, yeah. Especially for students, if you did not sign in, make sure you sign in with Kia back there. And you are left by right. If you are hungry or you need something to drink, you can see the Moai gang out there. And I think they still get some luau's too and other things. So, mahalo. Oh, and just to mahalo. From GMO Free Maui, if you're interested in stickers, you can grab a bunch and take home and share. And mahalo po to enforce the GMO moratorium. And mahalo to all the voters of Maui. We actually, the vote. That's all we're waiting for, of course, is our power and our power's administration to follow up. But if you have any questions, GMO Free Maui, you can find somebody right up there. All right, without further ado, we're going to roll. Put on your seatbelts. Let's move. I'd like to thank everybody again, Hawaiian Studies, Ka Āina, Hawaii again, Mauna, everybody for coming forward, all the students that came out, participated, and played. Mahalo nui for making this event occur. Mahalo. Brother John, on in the end with a 2A mahalo for the papale over here. That I use over. Okay, so as a teacher here at this college, I've been privileged, in fact, to talk about all this stuff all the time in my classes. So I'm very fortunate. Once a year, they let me out and I can kind of say my own stuff out there at this particular event. And so, in the past, I've looked at history, I've looked at many other kinds of questions. And so, for me today, I want to look at the question of education and liberation education. And so, you ready to roll? Okay, so that's what my talk, of course, is. Okay. Talk is cool. Re-Kalo-Nize. You have to re-colonize, of course, the root word kalo. And for me, really, it's on multiple levels, of course, kalo as a symbol of our kupuna, our connection to this particular place, this land, that which sustains us and feeds us. To our elder brother, halo nakalau kapalili. And the idea is that as a people, as Brother Walter was just saying, that identity, the kalo and the halo as our identity, was forcibly removed from us through the educational system. So we, as those today who have kind of reborn with this knowledge, to restore ourselves healthy, to restore ourselves of the right consciousness, we have to again put the kalo and all that's attached to the kalo, whether it's the narrative and the story and the history, whether it's actually the growing of the kalo and the water on the land, and also, of course, the spiritual connection to this place in the center of our foundation. So, in a second, educate to liberate. So I'm going to try to move quickly. I have a lot of slides to kind of run through. And well, the question, of course, Ka Āina, and a life that which gives us that sustenance, the sovereignty, independence of his land. Has it continued on? That's the question we ask ourselves. So we talk about today self-determination, we talk sovereignty, we talk independence. To me, it's very simple. The lesson from our kupuna really is this question, which is the idea of air. Do we feed ourselves? Do we house ourselves? Do we control our own destiny? Do we decide our educational system? Do we have the power to make sure we have clean water? Do we have the power to make sure we have access? Do we have the power to protect our sacred sites? And what is the answer to all of that? It's a good question. See, the point is, we think we don't have the power, but that power is latent. It's because we have gone asleep. So whenever we analyze a situation, I like to quote Kwame Ture, and one of the things he says is that whenever you're going to talk about the people, whenever you're going to look at the so-called oppressed, the dominated, you have to have the right diagnosis, you have to have the right analysis. And the problem many times in analyzing the situation of people is that we have a false diagnosis. And as he said, of course, is that whenever you analyze the oppressed, you have to make sure you include in the analysis the role of the oppressor and the effects of oppression. Because if you fail to do that, you see, you end up blaming the oppressed for their own condition. You think it's about changing the Hawaiian. You think it's something wrong with the Hawaiian you gotta fix. But in reality, it's the oppression we have to fight against. It's the oppression we have to struggle against. It's the oppressor that we must confront. You're affecting my rhythm, Mama. Come on, So words I like to use, I say, we must confront issues. Yeah, I use the word settlerism or colonial settlerism. But the idea that we are settled people, And they determine through hegemony, through the power, through the influence, policies that affect our lives. Classic colonialism, where the idea that the political and the economic rule is not centered here. But in fact, we can go look away 5,000 miles away, someplace like Washington, D.C. will determine effects on our lives. Coercive and forced assimilation, which are practices which transform and change a people. As Brother Walter was saying, to change your identity as Hawaiian to one where you become a stranger within your own land. Indoctrination, an idea of brainwashing, where they start to make you believe somehow, George Washington, that's the father of your country. And you start to believe in this indoctrination that somehow that history that is imposed on us is somehow our own. See, as Kwame Ture also said, the job of the oppressor and the dominator is to confuse the dominated, so they start to believe that the goals of the oppressor are the same goals of the oppressed. And you start to believe that what the dominator really wants is really what you want as the dominated. See, the first thing is to realize in this indoctrination is this myth-making, this storytelling, the images that pounded upon us for generations has nothing to do with empowering our people, but has everything to do with empowering them. At the same time, disempowering our people, so that we lose control, so we become apathetic. So we think we don't have a voice. So we believe we don't have power. Americanization, of course, we know through this history, ethnic cleansing goes on even to this day. See, even if they come with a gun to remove you off your land, that's one kind of ethnic cleansing. But today they don't come with a gun, you see, they come with fancy briefcases and lawyers, and they come with money. But the effects are the same. Areas that we all know we grew up, and many Hawaiians in that area at one time, they're no longer there. Yeah, whether it's the banks, whether it's the law, whatever is used, the end result occurs. Our people have been vanquished. Our people have been removed. Our people are no longer there. To me, that is ethnic cleansing. Whether it happens by the gun or it happens via the American dollar. Was the great professor of mine, Hamanike Trust, said, empire demands death. Empire demands death. And death is not just a physical death, but the death of our minds, the death of our culture, a death of a connection to this place. The idea that we must, in order to survive, as Brother Walter was saying, we had to kill who we are so that we could survive in a kind of schizophrenic way in this world. Yeah? So empire demands that the native no longer survives. See, the greatest voice that fights against empire is our voice in Hawaii. Now, one of the great minds of our people, Brother Skippy Ioane, that's the real Hawaiian philosopher over there. And, he has this brilliant line in one of his songs. The line goes, them got democracy, we got survive. And as someone, when I was a student back in political science, that blew my mind because of, wow, bro, that's political narrative, that's the counter-hegemonic, high-level kind of political philosophy. And basically what I say, you see, in the American system, they talk democracy, because their whole mentality is about this idea of this kind of democratic movement. But you see, for our people, that's not our trajectory. That's not our political ideology. In fact, for us, it's about survival. The survival of our language, the survival of our way of life, the survival of our people still upon their land. So, the outcome, our journey is very different. And so even in their minds, they believe, hey, you can vote in our system. To them, that's good enough. But for us, that's not a reality. We know we're going to survive. That reality is death for us. That reality of assimilation means we will no longer be here. That reality means we will no longer be Hawaiians. So you got to understand that. So, their language of democracy is not the same as our language of survival as a people. And so when we look at that language and power, this is the great Amos Lucid, who says there is a connection between naming and dominion. Yeah, the idea is that the power to name is the power. The fact that others define for us what is self-determination. The fact that others define to us what is sacred. The fact that an outsider can define for us what you can or cannot do. See, really is the power. They're holding the dictionary. But with this dictionary, so they can play with the words at all times. So we gotta understand, really the fight is about who has control of the definition, the power to define. Because to define is to hold dominion, to have control. Yeah. So when we talk about language, and let me give you the example. When I say the word Aina, everybody say Aina. Everybody say real estate. Same thing. When our kids go to school, what do they learn? When they go to college, what do you learn? What is the language of this society imposed on us? What makes sense in this world but the language of real estate? To the point of when you understand, that's where consciousness begins. That's where the struggle begins. Because if you as a white only understand real estate, it doesn't matter if you get sovereignty. It doesn't matter if you get control of your land. Because if you look at land as real estate, you can see where we're heading anyway. See, so the real fight is not just about we gotta get control of land. Because if we get control of the lands and we're still mindless as a people, we will end up in the same situation anyway. So the real fight is about re-educating our people to the true understanding of what Aina is. That's where the fight is. Second thing we should realize, Hawaiians are dominating people. We're a people in which we are dominated. It doesn't mean we don't have power to fight against this domination, but we gotta analyze the situation in the correct way. Now, if you may doubt this, but let's look at some facts. The fact that we have to resist this oppression, this subjugation, this domination, the fact that you gotta resist, sure, as they say, when you get smoke, get fire. The fact that Hawaiians gotta fight against things that are happening tells you that we are being dominated at this point. As the great George Helm from Molokai also said, call me a radical, for I refuse to remain idle. I will not have the foreigner prostitute the soul of my being. I will not make a whore out of my soul, my culture. In other words, we have to, there's no choice but to fight to protect the integrity of our culture. So we have to fight the integrity, the meaning of Aina for our kids, so the minds of our kids are no longer whitewashed to think of land as just real estate. 1957, Frederick Douglass, so-called emancipation speech, said in great words, from the wisest people that ever lived, he said, quote, if there is no struggle, there is no progress. Those who profess to favor freedom, yet deprecate agitation, are men who want crops without plowing up the ground. They want rain without thunder and lightning. They want the ocean without the awful roar of its many waters. This struggle may be a moral one, or it may be a physical one, or it may be both moral and physical, but it must be a struggle. Power concedes nothing without a demand. It never did, and it never will. Find out just what any people will quietly submit to, and you have found out the exact measure of injustice and wrong which will impose upon them. And these will continue to be resisted with either words or blows or both. The limits of tyrants are prescribed by endurance of those whom they oppress. Meaning, anybody come with you a nice story telling you, you just put your name on this paper, and it'll be all good for you Hawaiians. You can get one check in the mail, it'll be all good for you Hawaiians. The point being, if we are a dominated people, the only justice we're going to get is the justice we struggle for. Because the oppressor will never give us the tools to free ourselves. They benefit too much from this domination. So we have to recognize that. Whenever somebody gives you an easy plan, they're taking you off course. Anytime somebody gives you something sweet to drink, you better go check that Kool-Aid. Because poison can be sweet. In fact, Kamehameha had those words himself, as he said, when he unfortunately conquered this island. And he said when he came to conquer Maui, he said, "Imu poki, inu, ikawai, ama, aohe hope hoyakuai." Come forward, my younger brothers. Let's fight. Let's drink the bitter water. Meaning, by nature, we don't like to fight. And fighting is hard. It's bitter. But you gotta move forward. So anybody give me that golden path? That's the point. You gotta get the right analysis. The dominator will never free us. We can only free ourselves. You don't believe in domination? Go up to Puhakuloa. This is the largest live fire range controlled by the U.S. military in the Pacific. Puhakuloa, 50,000 acres of the land belongs to who? Our people. Hawaiian homes, you know how much they get paid for the use of the land? $1. You know what they do up there? Besides blowing up all kind of munitions? Depleted uranium, exactly. Depleted uranium. This is a war crime. They finally admitted that that's what they're doing up there. Even the Office of Hawaiian Affairs, last day, came out with a video to document this is what the military is poisoning our people right now. On whose lands? For how much? They're paying us $1 to poison our people. Think about that. And you don't think they're dominating people? Mauna Kea, Haleakala. You get it, 12 different countries have telescopes upon Mauna Kea. What do they pay for the use of that? You look at the money, it's already make you sick. And in fact, what you find, lucky if you get $1. In fact, what they give to Hawaii, they say, we give you time on the telescope. How many Hawaiians are out there playing with their telescope? Whose land is that up there? That's our land up there. And in Haleakala, whose land is Haleakala up there? But our land also. It was taken by the University of Hawaii in 1960, Executive Order, Governor Queen. It's still our land. And so you have developments upon Haleakala, pimped out by the University of Hawaii. But you have the Air Force who has the largest Department of Defense telescope on Haleakala. They're going to create, in fact, right now they're building the largest solar telescope on Haleakala. And in fact, let me tell you this story. I cannot hold back on this story. Craig Foltz, forget that name. Big shot, National Science Foundation, into the solar observer, he's the boss. And he came to Maui about 7-8 years ago with his proposal to construct a telescope. So I sit right in front of him on the table. And as a student of people like Gandhi, Gandhi had a very important question. He said, there's 7 sins he talks about. And one of the 7 sins is science without humanity. Science without humanity. So I sit across Craig Foltz and I tell him, okay, as a researcher, what is the humanity that you want to propose? I tell him, as a Hawaiian, I got caught. One of our sayings, Kapu life is sacred to God Kani. And what that means is, all the cultural things we learn as Hawaii, life is the most important stuff. Life. So I'm asking him, what are you, in other words, if you can tell me, you're talking about saving lives, you're talking about bringing life to people. As a Hawaiian, me personally, I can suck that in. Because I believe life supersedes everything else. But when I asked this person this question, what is the humanity? His quote was, well, all I can say is pure, selfish research. That's his exact words. Pure, selfish research. I wanted to reach across and choke him on the neck. That he was going to do that to our soul. Not because of some important discovery to go save lives. But pure selfish research. See, that's domination. That is power. But I'll go back to that term. And just to say mahalo to those people Hawaii Island recently who made a stand and actually shut down the blessing ceremonies on the camp. And so action still goes on in Aloha No. Issues of genetic modified foods. And how many of you guys know that Hawaii is the capital of this testing? We are the guinea pigs for these chemical corporations. We and our children and our grandchildren will have to face the consequences of what is done on these lands. Lands in which grow food or should grow food that should feed the people are growing things like corn that we don't eat here, that are taken away and used to be planted so we can put what's the kind of fuel in our gasoline. Highly profitable. How many of us have a say? We've been voted to say a moratorium, and yet it still goes on. And you still think we're not dominated? Questions of title. We know the stories. We know the history. We know the facts. Many of those lands out, especially even on the west side, we know they don't got no clear title. We know, like, for example, much of the lands on the west side in 1902, if I remember right the story, 1902, 1903, the Republic of Hawaii that became the territory of Hawaii claimed to have ownership of the Hawaiian Kingdom lands, and Pioneer Mill, for example, gained a lot of those lands. And then, recently sold them off. But we know from the very beginning, Pioneer Mill did not have title to these Hawaiian Kingdom and government lands, crown lands. How do I know? Pretty easy. You just follow the paper trail. It's all there. But see, as a Hawaiian, you realize truth doesn't mean anything when you're dominating people. Truth is something that we gotta first understand. We gotta teach ourselves first. Because truth is our sword. Truth in our heart is really what's gonna allow us this possibility so that we can regain control of our future. Sacred space, as Brother Andre right there, on Kauai. This example where the developer of a house in Haena wanted to construct his house right on burials. In fact, the way the state of Hawaii allowed them to do that was to encase the burials with cement blocks. And then to construct a house right on top of those blocks. Think about the inhumanity. Think about what other people in Hawaii would allow someone to build and construct a house on burials. But it happens to Hawaiians. As I keep on saying, because we are a dominating people. The environment. This is our home. Every time we lose a life form, it's not something that happened before. We have life forms and endangered species disappearing right now. And what power do we have to stop it from happening? Education is still controlled by federal policies. Policies that destroy the minds of the youth. Policies that still push agendas to kill the native. So we talk about self-determination. Unless you get control of the educational system, you've got no self-determination. Language. I see Miss Keely back there. Where she's there? I see her back there. Aloha to Keely, Punana Leo Maui. Language, again, revival, restoration is really the core of our being. Language did not just disappear. Language was purposely targeted by those who took political control of Hawaii. Knowing full effect how to gain control of the minds of the Hawaiians was to control education. And then how to control education education was to exterminate the language. And all you gotta do is actually read their own language, with their own words. This idea was, if the Hawaiian language disappears, it's for their own good anyway. Water. Right? Oh, we just had that a couple months back, and all the Hawaiians were excited. Oh, we'll get some water back in our streams. My students already check it out, all right? Halfway down, they realize, hey, the water never make it down. So we've been bamboozled. The system still refuses to understand. Water is a human right. Water is a right for the environment. You know, in history, it's only within the last 100 years that the water got flowing. What do you think about that? For millions of years, the water reached the ocean. But when we became a dominating people, the water became a commodity for those who could make a lot of money at the expense of the people and at the expense of our Aina. Sovereignty, self-determination. Let me go too deep on this one. This is a picture of the Department of Interior hearings that we just had. And to think that today you still have so-called leaders of the Hawaiian community, and these are so-called because I don't think they were appointed by the Hawaiian community. They happen to be Hawaiian. And they look at these testimonies. Overwhelmingly came out, put their leo on paper, saying exactly what they did not want. And yet, they turned their ear. These politicians, I would say, Kupuna said, Ilima said, the voice of the people is the voice of God. The people spoke. So when you don't listen to the people, I ask the question, whose voice are you listening to? Let's be straight. You don't listen to the people or you don't. Either the people have right to speak. But see, I'm one of those educators and I understand this. People, they know when they're being bamboozled. They know when they're being manipulated. And the anger is going to rise. And the people will begin to speak more and more. Because you cannot hide the truth from the people. As Bob Marley said, half the truth has never been told. Now you see the light. Stand up for your right. Okay, moving on. So this idea of air. See, this is a fraud right here. Who created this commission? The state legislature. Who appointed the commission? Governor Abercrombie. And we all know those guys are great friends for Hawaiians. See, you judge people for what they say, but what they do. What has Abercrombie's policies have been for Hawaiians? But one of a settler, one of a benefactor, one of an exploiter. The state legislature, not any better. So let's make sure we have the right perspective. But people say, oh, but maybe there's, I always say, I'm not into the maybes. I believe in the people. I believe in the people. I believe in the people. Why can I follow? This is an example. This is the Oha settlement. They say birds of a feather flock together. You see John Wahi, the chair of Kanai Lovalu, Clint Machado, former chair of the Office of Wine Affairs, Governor Abercrombie, all having a big smile. And you must wonder yourself, what's going on in this picture? What is this happiness about? Abercrombie looked like he's orgasmic or something going on in there. And I know he's not a friend to our people. So why does he push it? Well, what you guys, you actually go up and look for yourself, and you can actually watch the film. But you're going to hear him talking about. And it kind of goes back to his view when he tried a few years back, which was the Public Lands Development Corporation, or the so-called PLDC. And the basic idea was we're going to take the control of the lands from the Department of Land and Natural Resources and have this created, appointed corporate entity who was going to decide who they're going to lease all the Hawaiian lands to. As if, again, that's beneficial to our people. So the idea in Abercrombie's hands and those like Abercrombie has always been, whether it's the bankers or the corporate heads or the military, was to further exploit our lands and resources to fatten their pocket at our expense. This is Abercrombie. Land in Hawaii is money. What I'm talking about here is ceded land. Ooh, think about that. Land that belonged to the kingdom and was ceded to the republic. I mean, right there we know that's a false statement. The Hawaiian kingdom never ceded control of the Hawaiian kingdom. 1.9 million acres of land, 43% of the land of Hawaii was never ceded by the Hawaiian kingdom. And then to the state. These are examples. This is Maui. Look at those lands in Maui. Now, take a look at Olowalu area. I just told you the story. Yeah, look at South Maui. These lands are part of the government and crown lands that we never gave consent to the taking. Lanai. You know, they tell you the story. All of Lanai is owned by this private owner. Well, let me tell you see those two yellow ahupua'a. Both of those ahupua'a are Hawaiian crown lands. Crown lands that the Hawaiian kingdom never gave consent to. And in fact, let me just tell you, I did my own research. I can't even figure out how they got the lands. There's some funky court cases in 1908, 1910, and somehow they transferred it. Because we know, up through the overthrow, through the territorial Hawaii period, those lands are still under lease. Lease from who? The Hawaiian kingdom. The question is, well, therefore, how does the Hawaiian kingdom, or who represented the Hawaiian kingdom, to pass? So, this whole mythology about, I forget the name of the new so-called owner, he doesn't own the whole island. And the green you see, that's actually Hawaiian government lands. Molokai also has many crown. And you notice that other lands are part of the watershed areas where the water comes from. Now, I never made up these maps. Again, these are maps actually from the kingdom period. We talked about this in the kingdom too. John Henry Clark, one of the great African philosophers and historians, said, to hold the people in oppression, you have to convince them first that they're supposed to be oppressed. See, that's the issue. My question to all of us here, have we been convinced that we want to remain as an oppressed people, as a dominating people? Do we want to remain in this condition? Huh? How old? So, before you can recolonize, let's go look at what happened with the decolonization of Hawaii. What happened to our people to put us in this condition that we are in today? You know, how has the color been removed from our soul? Well, of course, miseducation of these islands. This is actually a cartoon from the overthrow period. And you can see, not a Hawaiian cartoon, of course, you can see, but this came from the US American newspapers. But you can see Uncle Sam, they're lecturing to the front row. You got Philippines, Hawaii, Puerto Rico, and Cuba. Yeah. Look like they're getting scolded for not listening. Yeah. Behind you have, of course, all those Americans studying hard. You notice in the back left, the black African American person, what is he doing? He's wiping the windows. You notice the Indian, Native American Indian? Yeah, reading a book upside down. And of course, the Chinese Pake guy just trying to get into the classroom. But point being, this, if you actually look at that period, this is how the United States and Uncle Sam look at people of color. This is how we have been treated. And I would argue, this is how we are still treated, even to this day. Deep culture is the word. Deep culture is the process of removing your natural culture, removing those things which make you who you are. American Indians went through this particular kind of issue. In fact, they say, no, kill the Indians, save the man. Or kill the native, save the man. In order for you guys to survive in this society, the way to do that is to kill your nativeness. Kill whatever essence, whether it was your language, whether it's your name, whether it's your understanding of your history, your understanding of what's sacred. We have to remove that out of you so that you can survive and assimilate to our way of life. John Henry Clark again, as he says, powerful people cannot afford to educate people that they oppress, because once they are truly educated, this is what this is about. Once you are truly educated, you will not ask for power. You will take it. Now, this is actual Department of Education policy they went on board in 1959. And the idea, of course, was to transform a Stone Age folk people. Now, what did I just tell earlier about a story? What was Hawaii like in the Hawaiian Kingdom era? Huh? What about our literacy? We weren't Stone Age people who had to learn to become literate from the state of Hawaii. You see this mythology. They created this idea in 1959. You Hawaiians, you guys wasn't too sharp. You don't really like education, so we gotta teach you about education. You see, but when you're educated Hawaiian, you realize that's not the true story. We're very educated people. Once we became dominated by the sector, education was transformed, so we no longer looked at education as something that was Hawaiian. But we come to learn and think of education as something that's not good and valuable for our people. I mean, coming to the same thing, but again, you can look at the process of education here. And it's really about the agenda of the powers to be. If you get the fourth one, in which we are now, in the strengthening of U.S. mainland cultural values. This is the DOE. What is education about? But to make you think and act like somebody from Iowa. To make you feel and believe you just like the person from Iowa. And then, again, like I said, George Washington was the father of your country. So the whole basis was also to create this false identity of our people via education. Political myths, very powerful. I wish I could do a whole night talking about political myths. But we've been so bombarded by these images and false history that we start to believe. And we watch the Ten Commandments, and you see Yul Brynner, and you see Charlton Heston. You think, well, Moses must have looked like Charlton Heston. Let me tell you, Moses did not look like Charlton Heston. As you can see, even in National Geographic, that's what the pharaohs look like in Egypt. It's the myth of discovery. We get told, right? Columbus came across the ocean, landed upon this new world, did a prayer, bent his knee, put on a flag, and he discovered millions of people who actually have been living there thousands of years. And we still use that language today. People still talk about, and I may just share this story. Once I went to do a talk in Washington. And I went out to the audience, and there were a bunch of Hawaiians in the audience, and the first question I asked was, who discovered Hawaii? This guy stands up and says, Captain Cook, 1778. And I said, what school did you graduate from? Kamehameha Kapalama. I told him, you had a great education. But think about that. Obviously, this guy is bright. But yet, he fails to even see his own people's history in this world. He actually believes that we were discovered as if we're like the rocks, animals, and trees waiting to become human. See, that is self-hatred being taught. That is a denial of your own identity. That is made to believe somehow you only became a human after Captain Cook arrived. And then history began as our people. So what is history? Let me just, one of the things I always say, history is past politics, and politics presents history. The tie-in between politics and history is key. So anyone knows, I don't have to talk politics, I just talk history. My agenda is political. My tool is teaching history. This word ho'okanaka, I tried to revive, and this is because it's a very important word. The word ho'o calls kanaka, of course, we, the Kanaka, Hui Kanaka, the Hawaiian people. But it's not just to make yourself Hawaiian, to become Hawaiian. The word ho'okanaka is actually a word which means to be brave, to have courage. Ho'okanaka, in fact, the word ho'okanaka, if you look at the royal guard in the Hawaiian kingdom, that was their motto that they had sewn on the sleeve, which was to be courageous. So our generation, all of us here, we, parents, grandparents, and kids, it's our generation that has to ho'okanaka. If we are going to survive 10 generations, 40 generations, 100 generations in this island, we cannot not be ho'okanaka. Jerry Ireland, one of the great Republicans from Ireland, he also said, just to put language, that the Irish language is the reconquest of Ireland, and the reconquest of Ireland is the Irish language. The language is the key to our understanding, our identity. Our political consciousness is based upon these ideas that are held in language. We just talked about that. If you don't understand the meaning of the word Āina, you get stuck in that circle of real estate. Ngugiwaki also talks more about the importance of language, but really language is a collective memory of the people. And how language is used to entrench. So you think about why was Hawaiian banned in education? Because the purpose was to entrench, not a different language, but a different way of thinking, a different way of seeing the world, to kill the native and to save the man. Roderick Pierce, another great Irish, well, I'm half Irish, so I'm going to make sure I pay homage to my Irish lineage, yeah? But 1916 rebellion, he also discussed education. And with the fight with the English, what he says is, the English have established the simulacrum, like a fake copy of an education system, but its object is the precise contrary of the object of an education system. Education should foster. This education is meant to repress. Education should inspire. This education is meant to tame. Education should harden. This education is meant to endeavor. So, think about our educational system in Hawaii here. Think of what's taught here. Think of the dumbing down, the taming, the killing of really what holds us here as being Hawaii. Yeah? Which also gives us the key on the flip side. See? If we know what the poison is, it's pretty hard we can figure out what the lapa'au is going to be. See, that's the point. I'm not here to just tell you what a bad thing is. I'm here to make you guys understand why language study, language sharing is fundamental. Why the control of our educational system is fundamental. So when you look at issues like Kanai'olowalu, just to put in context, and I asked the commissioners, through Kanai'olowalu, does it mean that Hawaii is going to control our educational system? Well, we have to go through Congress. We still be being fed the poison. See, that's the point. As long as we poison the people, that's death to our people. I don't have time for it, sorry, I gotta run through this stuff. But we gotta understand it's through our own mo'olelo and our history and story, our stories. How many of you guys can tell me the story of Cinderella? Rumpelstiltskin, Snow White, Three Little Pigs. Mary had and you guys know all A's, guaranteed. How many of you guys can tell me the story? Come on, Mahi Ai. How about the story of Lonoika Makahiki? How about the story of Kumuhonua? I hope that point makes it figure it out. To think we're not tainted, to think our minds haven't been deformed, is the first act of destruction, right? We don't even know that we've been confused. We don't even know that we're deranged. We didn't even know we're sick in the mind. That's the first lesson. See, so for me, education again is the key. Education and the control of education is the key to our future. And Malcolm X said, history is a people's memory. And without a memory, man is demoted to lower animals. That's our humanity. If we don't know our history, if we don't know our history, we demoted like lower animals, we treated like lower animals. Amy Susan also talks about what's called feel-good history. So one of the proudest people, they like to study history, but they like only the feel-good stuff. They think history is just about making myself feel good. And as he says, well, you just gonna die feeling good and still oppressed. You're gonna die with a smile on your face, and your people still gonna be under the thumb of the oppressors. See, history is not about just making yourself feel good. History at the core has to be about retaking power. It has to be about providing yourself greater self-determination. It has to be about providing those tools necessary so you can dismantle those things which bind our people. And you can build those things which is able to free our people. Politics, Ka Āina, to carve up the land. Oh, I gotta stop this one. One of my favorite words. Harriet Tubman, right? The famed Underground Railroad. My brain's starting to go already. But you know, Harriet Tubman is an interesting quote that she says, right? She went down to put her life on the line to save slaves so they could escape. And as she said here, I freed 1,000 slaves. I could have freed 1,000 more if you only knew there were slaves. See, part of the conditioning is many times the slaves who are oppressed or dominated, they don't even know that they're dominating. They think this is how they've always been. They think this is how you should always have been treated. They actually believe that they should be treated that way because the master has told them that's what it's about. You have black skin, I have white, therefore you're a slave, I'm the master. And the oppressed hegemony will buy into that power. See, that's the point. So even like a Harriet Tubman recognized the quest to break for freedom really had to do with changing the minds of the slaves. Audre Lorde, one of the great minds herself, poet, and she has these great words, for the master's tools will never dismantle the master's house. And I will submit the educational system, even here at the University of Maui College, where there's a Department of Education, are the master's tools. And in the master's house, they never will teach us the way for us to empower ourselves, to find true self-determination. But it doesn't mean you give up there. What it means is that we must set up our own tools. We must take those tools for ourselves. We must take this university for ourselves. So it's no longer their tools, but our tools. The tools that we're going to use to dismantle this house. The tools that we're going to use to rebuild our. See, we're not building something new. We just got to remember that this is our house in the first place. Yeah? We got to remember we don't belong outside of the porch. We don't belong in the guest room. We don't belong waiting for scraps off the table. The first thing we got to remember is that this is our house. That's the first step. See, once you recognize this is your house, you start to behave as this is your house. You start to speak up for those things which benefit yourself in this house. So Re-Kalo-Nization is that process. And for me, I have this idea to recognize, which means the first step for all of us, we got to recognize our situation. We got to learn our history, learn our language, learn our cultural values, recognize, and to think again, embrace that. Then we got to analyze, we got to sit back and we got to look at the situation. We got to have the correct analysis. We got to diagnose the situation. Who is oppressing us? What is the problem in our situation, our community? Then we got to organize, which we got to plan, we got to work together, we got to struggle. And the final step, of course, we got to exercise. Yeah, so these are the 4 steps for us to recolonize our minds and our hearts and our people. Yeah, I know what I just want to. Let me just stop here. I'm going to grab, these are some ancient traditional ideas to me which are very important for us today. These words, and basically what it says, we must see our fellow Kanaka. Let's look to our fellow Kanaka, lest or else our love be wasted on the dog. And basically what it means is that we gotta first see each other as Kanaka. We must embrace each other as Kanaka first, before wasting our attention for those, in fact, who don't share the same trajectory, the same future. So we must realize, before we speak ill of one another, and before we start to see ourselves as competitors and enemies, we must first realize we are Hoa Kanaka. We are connected because we are Hoa Kanaka. This is not about a competition, and as you guys know, I've said many times, this is not about a canoe race. This is not about who gets the fastest canoe, the biggest canoe, who can carry more people, the traditional stroke, the Tahitian stroke. This is not about who gets the best canoe. So the first concept is to realize we only get one canoe. And it's the canoe we all are. And once you understand you're in the same canoe, you realize the journey is very different. Because the goals have to be different. The destination will be the same. Whether we work together or we don't. Either we pair up together or we don't. Either we stay in the same position or we move forward. Yeah. Oh, I'm going to go through this, sorry. Oh, I get it. This is James Ka Āina, one of the great organizers against the petition. With the petitions against annexation. And it's a commonly said word, but he said, he said that it was because the brains of the government could not push over the brains of the Kanaka Maui, that the government had to resort to weapons of war. Quote, let us take up the honorable field of struggle, brain against brain, using our brain. Do not be afraid. Be steadfast in aloha for your land and be united in thought. And he says, protest forever. How long? Protest how long? Forever. The annexation of Hawaii until the very last Aloha Āina lives. And I would submit that lots of Aloha Āina still present and still standing today. I got a tear when I get Mama Hali, but one of my great teachers, Mama Lilia Wahini Maikai Hali, as I share an office with her as a student and then as a faculty person at UH Manoa. And she went on into her 90s all the way, a very strong and elegant kupuna. And I was having this conversation one day with her, and we were watching these two Hawaiians fight. And she made this kind of funny face. And she turned to me and she basically said, see, Kaleikoa, you know why? Because our people smart. We're not sheep. Our people, we always expect the best. But what she was trying to tell me was, you see, having debates and having different ideas, there's nothing wrong with that. That, in fact, is our blessing almost in a sense. That is what our strength is. So even we may challenge, we may have critique of one another, no problem. As Mama Hali said, because we're not sheep, we are thinkers. We are free thinkers. So mahalo Mama Hali for giving that words of wisdom. Again, it's our Re-Kalo-Nization. Another great kupuna of us who used to travel with us to Maui all the time, Ka Āina. And one of the words you always say is you share with students, and you constantly say, liwi ka pakai, liwi ka pakai. And what he meant was, it's salted. The word liwi is that when you salt a fish, you get plenty of salt, it's all caked. Liwi, it's all salted with salt. And what he meant was, for our generation and the younger generation, he kept on saying, It has all been preserved. His idea was, we never lose anything. You like learn about terraforming, you can still see our logo all over the place. You like learn about aquaculture and raising fish in the fish ponds, we still have those places out there. You like learn about our history, our kupuna was smart. We have volumes of stories and newspapers you could read forever. So his whole thing was, it was just a matter of understanding. It's not what we lost. You know, they have, it's really what we have preserved. And what he said was this, you know, just like the salt and the fish, you preserve it for later on. Our kupuna was going to put away for a later time. And his thing was, you know, when you're ready for it, you just take the fish, you wash them with some water, you take off as much salt and do it at the flavor just enough for you at that point, and then you can eat it. But he always had this idea, everything we need to move forward is all in front of us. That we haven't lost anything. In fact, this is all in front of us. To read, like Pakai, all we gotta go is get that fish, kind of clean it up with some water, and then begin to eat that fish. Papa Mao told us in his words, and peace on him as he's passed on, one of his famous words, to navigate, you must be brave, O Kanaka. And to be brave, you must remember. So issue. If I have courage, it is because I have remembered the teachings of my father. If I have courage, it is because I remember the teachings of my father. And the last slide, even Lili Oklan herself left us these very small, short words, Oni Pa. And the word Oni means to move, Oni. Pa is like keep on going. And the idea of Oni Pa, which was of course, we're going to keep on moving. We're going to keep on going. See, once we stop moving, we're in trouble. So the lesson is, as Brother Skippy always says, just get those hoo-ha's pumping. We just keep it going. Yeah? No matter where we do or where we go, we got to keep on moving. We got to keep on moving. And last, Mahatma Gandhi has also said, in struggle, first they ignore you, then they laugh at you, then they fight you, and in the end, then you win. Mahalo.
Thank you very, very much for coming. And hope you only come and join the struggle at some point. And mahalo nui.
Just back.
You know what? I gotta figure out how to open it. I'll hit what you keep touching.
Yes.
That's a good one. Do you see Piggy?
She's running outside having snow. Are we leaving?
No, this gotta all be pushed back.
Nothing in the middle? This is all in the
Nothing
side?
in the middle. All of it is to the side.
All to the side.
Yeah, but
Just all just like that?
it was all different. They moved it all the time, but it just has to be up to the side. Oh, the signs go to Auntie Dem. That's Auntie Dem's one in the back. It's really heavy.
I will be around.
Kaini, I need direction, Kaini.
Yeah, but it's locked. So I gotta open it. I don't know how. I don't have the key. I'm not sure if somebody else has it.